Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 361, Sky High Gym Battle. The episode begins with Ash and Winona both on the top of a rising platform on each side of the Fortress City gym battlefield that we saw in the last episode. The platform started on the ground, level with the battlefield, and also Ash's friends, who were sitting on a bench a bit farther away from the actual platforms, anxiously anticipating the match. Ash and Winona tried to intimidate each other by staring at each other from across the stadium, while the gym assistant, who was also the referee, Zachary, walked out into the middle of the battlefield with a red and green flag, one for Winona and one for Ash, and he then pressed a button to raise up the platforms into the sky a few feet off the ground. And Ash and Winona continued to stare at each other, trying to intimidate, until the platforms had fully risen up. Before the battle began, Winona kneeled on the ground, crouching, and started to give a small prayer to the wind, asking for the wind in the sky to give her Pokemon the power to conquer the stormy winds, and to give her strength during the battle. And Winona then declares that as a flying type trainer, she would use the sky to her advantage, and stood up, reaching for the sky, promising all the flying Pokemon in the entire Pokemon world that she would not lose this battle. May thought that Winona was acting kind of weird, with Max simply stating that she must really want to honor the flying Pokemon, with Brock commenting that Winona appeared to view the wind as a steroid in battle or some shit, where you could gain extra power if you prayed to it. Probably because she used flying types. As for Ash's reaction to Winona's prayer, he barely even paid attention to it, as he was too busy running scenarios through his mind of how he could win, determined to win his feather badge, the 6th Owen Gym badge. With Winona's praying done, Zachary declared the rules of the battle. It would be a 3-on-3 battle with no time limit, and also Ash was allowed to switch Pokemon since he was the challenger, but Winona could not, and also Winona had to choose her Pokemon first. Max was very excited about this, wanting to see what flying type Winona would send out, now really liking flying types after he rode on Skarmory last episode. Soon enough, Winona sends out her first Pokemon, Altaria. Max was in awe by it, and was surprised to see a Pokemon that he had never seen before. Brock and May were surprised by it as well, even though Brock had saw it, and May decided to examine Altaria on her Pokedex, and was excited to learn that it was the evolution of Swablu. As for Brock, he remarked that Altaria was pretty beautiful, but hoped that Altaria's beauty wouldn't fool Ash, exclaiming that, while Altaria looked beautiful, it was actually a devious dragon type. It was a flying type, but it was dragon as well. So that would mean that Altaria would be pretty dangerous, so he suggested that Ash think very hard before choosing. Much to everyone's surprise, though, Ash didn't take long to choose his Mon, which was none other than Grovyle, who soon placed an extra twig in its mouth to make itself extra powerful. Brock really questioned Ash's choice, since grass types were weak against flying types. Although Brock soon realized that Ash must have known this, and he must have had some sort of plan. So, without further ado, Zachary lifted up both the red and green flags and signaled for the battle to begin, as Winona started the battle by having Altaria use Peck and had it fly towards Grovyle, leaving Ash to have Grovyle use a Bullet Seed. Altaria dodges by swooping around, so Grovyle tries another one, but Altaria just keeps dodging and dodging and dodging, getting closer and closer to Grovyle, leading Grovyle to jump out of the way, but Altaria simply just flies up and meets with Grovyle to peck Grovyle multiple times in a row, leading May and Max to panic, knowing that this was bad for Grovyle. Grovyle then lands hard on the ground in immense pain, as Winona commands Altaria to use Peck again. However, Ash commands Grovyle to dodge, and hopes that it could recover. Sure enough, Grovyle does recover, and it jumps away from Altaria before it can peck again, and climbs up a nearby totem pole that was on the battlefield, and does a backflip to land behind Altaria. Ash commended Grovyle on its speedy dodge, although he noticed that Grovyle was extremely exhausted from all this. Ash debated recalling Grovyle, but he saw that despite how tired it was, it didn't look ready to give up. Winona, however, was confident that Altaria would beat Grovyle any second now, stating that even though Grovyle was fast, it couldn't contend with the speed of a flying type, and taunted Ash that his Grovyle couldn't just keep dodging forever. Ash got a bit pissed off at this comment, glaring at Winona, and Grovyle and Altaria prepared to attack again, both of them not willing to give in, and the scene was so tense that if you blinked, you would have missed a small breeze pickup just fully from the tension. Just wind was formed from the tension alone, and it blew sand up from the battlefield. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was down inside the catacombs of the gym, underground. Yeah, apparently the gym had catacombs that we didn't know about, and Jessie was complaining, along with James, as they didn't understand how they were going to catch Pikachu by going underground, implying that Meowth had suggested that they go to the battlefield from underground to catch Pikachu. Meowth admitted that they had got lost down in the catacombs while looking to go up to the gym, but he had prepared for that, as he had brought some dowsing rods to locate the battlefield, stating that they could use the dowsing rods to locate Pikachu whenever he used electric attacks, since the dowsing rods could sense electricity. Meowth also suggested that there could even be some buried treasure underneath the gym that they could find with these dowsing rods. However, Team Rocket didn't even understand what dowsing rods even were and how they really worked, and they thought that they could be used as like maracas or some shit while they did a weird dance, and they proceeded to envision themselves doing a fun party disco dance while holding the rods. Meowth hit Jessie and James for this stupid thought, and explained to them that dowsing rods were used to find water, among numerous other treasures. Jessie and James, being stupid as hell, were still confused as to how the dowsing rods worked, so Meowth tried to continue reiterating his explanation, although he was spinning the rods in anger while doing so, so Team Rocket thought that they could still be used as maracas. And Team Rocket tries to dance while Meowth shakes the rods, leading Meowth to smack Jessie and James again for actually trying to dance, telling them for the last time that the only form of dancing that the rods would provide would be dancing on the way to finding whatever treasure the rods located. Basically, Meowth saw that Jesse and James were super hellbent on dancing, so he just decided to say that the rods could make them dance while they looked for treasure. And because of this, they finally understood the main purpose of the dowsing rods. Even though Team Rocket now understood the rod's purpose, they still doubted that they would actually work, because they just thought, they were rods, how are they going to help find treasure? But their skepticism was soon removed when the rods suddenly turned and pointed down one of the halls. Jesse and James become excited at the thought of actually being able to find treasure, Pikachu, and water, and they end up taking the rods from Meowth and run down the hallway extremely fast, not paying attention to Meowth at all. Meowth just stood down the hall in disbelief and anger at the fact that Jesse and James would leave him behind like that, and he was also in disbelief at the fact that Jesse and James had suddenly changed their opinion on the rods so fast. Meowth then got even more annoyed, as somehow Wobbuffet popped out of his Pokeball, even though Jesse had already walked down the hall. Maybe Jesse dropped his Pokeball or some shit. Meanwhile, back during the battle, Winona had Altaria attack with a Dragon Breath, and the attack injured Grovyle quite a bit, making Ash and the gang worried. Altaria suddenly stops the Dragon Breath, and then pulls up before repeating the Dragon Breath, wanting to hit Grovyle from a different point this time, so that it could damage a different part of his body. However, despite Grovyle being pretty injured from the first Dragon Breath, it wasn't that injured to the point where it couldn't move, so Ash had Grovyle jump out of the way and dodge the second Dragon Breath, bouncing off the totem pole again to keep itself in the air for a little bit longer. Altaria started to chase Grovyle, while Grovyle simply kept jumping off of the totem pole to dodge more Dragon Breaths. It kept dodging and dodging and dodging and dodging, causing Altaria to fly right by Grovyle every time, just missing the attack, making Winona start to worry a little bit about Grovyle's speed, remarking that it was pretty fast, and maybe dodging was a good strategy after all, since Altaria could get tired out. With Winona distracted, Ash took the opportunity to have Grovyle launch a Bullet Seed that was powered up thanks to having two twigs in its mouth, but the Bullet Seed just hit Altaria on the back and didn't do that much damage. It did a little bit, but not much at all. Altaria then tries going higher to avoid more of Grovyle's Bullet Seeds, and then launches another Dragon Breath. Grovyle just dodges this again, jumping off of two poles in the process, and it rebounds off the poles to go super high, above Altaria even, and it slams Altaria down by using a Leaf Blade. And Grovyle restrains Altaria with this Leaf Blade, pushing it down to the ground until Altaria crashes down and Grovyle lands beside it, causing a huge dust cloud to form. And when the dust cleared, Grovyle was standing above Altaria, who was knocked out and unable to battle. So Zachary declared Grovyle the winner and Altaria the loser, and that meant the score was 1-0. Ash congratulates Grovyle on the win as it rushes back to him, and Ash's friends all comment on how Ash was really good at using Grovyle's speed to his advantage. And we're also amazed that Ash was able to win, despite using a grass type against a part flying type. Brock then realized that Ash's plan was waiting to find a moment for Grovyle to get a clear hit, so that's why he was just having Grovyle dodge for so long. May was just glad to know that Ash did have a plan after all. As for Winona's reaction to the outcome of the battle, she was amazed with Ash's skills, stating that she was definitely surprised that Ash was able to win by doing so much dodging, and also win with a type that was weak to flying. Ash thanked Winona for the compliment, but Winona stated that Ash shouldn't let it go to his head, and warned him that the battle was just beginning, as she recalled her Altaria and sent out Pelipper as her second Mon. In response to Pelipper, Ash decided to recall Grovyle for some rest for now, and had Pikachu hop off his shoulder to battle instead. May, Max, and Brock were all overjoyed by this choice, relieved that Ash had actually picked a Pokemon with a type advantage against Pelipper, with Max pointing out that it was really good for Ash, because Pikachu had a double advantage here, because Electric was good against both of Pelipper's types, water and flying. Although Winona pointed out that just because Ash had a type advantage, that didn't mean that he should be so confident, and reminded him of the whole situation with Grovyle and Altaria that just happened, and warned Ash that even though she was a flying type gym leader, she of course would come prepared to counter her weaknesses, such as electric types. Ash was confident that Winona was just bluffing, and had Pikachu start off with a super effective Thunderbolt, but Winona had a counter in mind, as she had Pelipper use Steel Wing, though not on Pikachu, but on the ground. So, when the Thunderbolt made a direct hit on Pelipper, and Max assumed that it would be over in one fucking hit, because Pelipper was so weak to it, Pelipper actually was unfazed by the Thunderbolt, leaving everyone shocked and wondering how the Thunderbolt had no effect. Although they hypothesized that it was due to the Steel Wing absorbing the electricity and putting it into the ground, as opposed to making Pelipper take the damage. Meanwhile, Team Rocket were still wandering the catacombs underground, in search of Pikachu, or water, or treasure with the dowsing rods, with Meowth having caught up, and all three of them eager to find water specifically, while unbeknownst to Team Rocket, the electricity that Pelipper was absorbing with its Steel Wing that was on the ground was going underground into the catacombs, and the electricity was particularly building up on the roof of the catacombs. Eventually, the two dowsing rods sensed this electricity and pointed up, and this caused Team Rocket to look up to the ceiling excitedly, and it was then that they noticed the electricity gathering above them, and they became confused as to where this electricity came from. Just then, though, since the rods were attracted to electricity, the rods acted as lightning rods, which sent the electricity from the roof down to the rods themselves, and since Team Rocket was holding the rods, they ended up getting electrocuted, and the electricity caused a huge explosion, which sent Team Rocket flying through the roof and onto the sidelines of the battlefield. Once Team Rocket was finished complaining about the injuries they sustained, even though they weren't in Ash and the gang's view because they were so far off on the battlefield, they did manage to see Pikachu battling Pelipper, and Jesse instantly came up with a plan to catch Pikachu while he was distracted while he was battling Pelipper. Seeing how Pikachu was busy using Thunderbolt on Pelipper, they saw the perfect opportunity to steal it right now, so they quickly did their motto, with Chimecho coming out and joining the motto as well, and using its voice to put Team Rocket in a heavenly trance to make them more inclined to catch Pikachu and more confident, and with their confidence, they ran up with the rods still in their hands to catch Pikachu, but as they were doing so, since the rods were still in Jesse's hands, they were attracted to Pikachu using Thunderbolt. So the dowsing rods become lightning rods once again, and Team Rocket are therefore struck by the thunderbolt that they had absorbed and are sent blasting off. As Wobbuffet forcibly pops out of his Pokeball again, because Jessie must have recalled it at some point. But even though they were blasted off, Jessie was still happy, because she knew that the dowsing rods at least worked, since they had led them to treasure Pikachu, technically. Maeve thought that she heard Team Rocket blast off, but she just shrugged it off because she was focusing on the battle. As for the battle, Pikachu was still using Thunderbolt, trying to damage Pelipper, but it wasn't doing anything, and Winona was getting bored, so she told Pelipper to use a quick attack, while still keeping its wing in the ground to make sure that the Thunderbolt would not hit it still. So it slid across the ground, going for a quick attack, and slams into Pikachu with it. Upon seeing this, Brock starts to understand Winona's strategy, explaining to the others that Pelipper was using its Steel Wing attack to discharge the electricity into the ground by touching it, and since electric attacks weren't doing anything, and electric attacks are Pikachu's strongest, Pikachu wasn't able to do much at all. This was not just a hypothesis, this was a fact now. Ash realizes Winona's strategy as well, so he changes up his strategy from using an ineffective Thunderbolt to using Quick Attack. So Pikachu races towards Pelipper, although before the Quick Attack can land, Pelipper stops Pikachu in his tracks with a Hydro Pump, pushing Pikachu back, as Pikachu was hit straight in the face, while Pelipper still had its wing in the ground. Ash told Pikachu to hang on and not lose, and Pikachu continued to endure the Hydro Pump, being pushed farther and farther back. However, Ash then noticed that the power of the Hydro Pump, the sheer force of it, was making Pelipper lose its grip on the ground with its wing, so this meant that electric attacks should be effective, so Ash had Pikachu use a Thunderbolt, and sure enough, this damaged Pelipper and pushed it back, sending it falling down to the ground. Although Pikachu fell to the ground as well, because it had been pushed back too much by the Hydro Pump, and the Hydro Pump was just too strong for it. So Pelipper and Pikachu were both knocked out, leading the referee to declare a simultaneous knockout. So the score was now 2-1, with Ash technically in the lead, but for this round it was a tie. May and Max were shocked by Pikachu's sudden defeat, although Brock commented that it made sense, since although Pikachu managed to get a good attack on Pelipper, it was also receiving major damage as well. Ash quickly leaves the platform he was on to pick Pikachu up and cradle him to make sure he was okay, and thankfully Pikachu seemed alright, but Ash was now extremely worried about beating Winona, since Pikachu was his only Mon that had an advantage on flying types. Even though Ash was terrified, he didn't give up on the battle, as he returned to his platform, but not before handing Pikachu over to Brock, so that Brock could look after him. Ash then promises to both himself and Nimona that regardless of the difficult position he was in, he would not give up and he would win. Winona complimented Ash on making it as far in the battle as he did, but then the wind picked up again, blowing more sand around the battlefield, and Winona explained that because of her prayer and her love for the sky and flying Pokemon, Ash would not be able to beat her no matter how hard he tried, because of her prayer, the sky and flying Pokemon were returning Winona's love and heightening the power of her flying Pokemon. Without further ado, Winona sent out her final Pokemon, a shiny Swellow. Yeah, that's right, a shiny Pokemon. How the fuck did she get it? Who knows? But obviously, Max was very excited to see it, along with the others who were impressed with its shininess. Ash was impressed too, excited to battle an extremely rare shiny Pokemon, but he knew not to let himself get too impressed, because otherwise that could distract him from winning, and he knew that he had to give it his all, both mind and body, to defeat the shiny Swellow. So, he sent out his Pokemon, Grovyle, not revealing his third Mon yet. At first, Max and May questioned why Ash would send out Grovyle against a flying type like Swellow, but Brock suggested that maybe Ash was trying to match Swellow's inevitable speed with Grovyle's great speed. Anyways, as soon as Grovyle came out, it immediately went for a Leaf Blade, and the attack hit Swellow. Ash's friends were pleased with the attack, but despite the strong Leaf Blade, Swellow appeared to take next to no damage, as it simply just got knocked back a little bit and flew around to shake off the attack, ready for more. Winona then ordered an Aerial Ace, and Swellow started to grin, very excited to use Aerial Ace, because it must have been his favorite attack. Ash began to panic a little bit, because he had never encountered a Pokemon who used an Aerial Ace before, as far as he could remember, so he simply just told Grovyle to use a Leaf Blade, since that was Grovyle's strongest attack, so he hoped that that would do something. Although Ash knew that the Leaf Blade wouldn't hit if Grovyle just stayed on the ground, so he had Grovyle jump, but Swellow was too fast and dodged the Leaf Blade, and then it immediately flew back towards Grovyle and struck Grovyle with the Aerial Ace, and kept Grovyle on its beak, lifting it up into the air, and then flying straight down, slamming Grovyle into the ground. This causes a huge dust cloud, and when the dust clears, it's revealed that Grovyle had been defeated. So now the score was 2-2, as the referee, Zachary, declared Winona Swellow the winner. Winona Swellow flew back to her for a sec, and she congratulated it, as Max explained to May that Aerial Ace was a move that involved the user circling around the opponent, and then disappearing for a bit, and then suddenly appearing again to catch the Pokemon off guard, making it basically impossible to dodge. After hearing this, May was worried, just like Brock, Max, and Pikachu, about how Ash could win if he couldn't dodge, and it suggested that he needed a Pokemon that could match Swellow's speed so that it couldn't be caught off guard, but they didn't know who he could use. Then, Ash recalled his Grovyle, thanking it for giving it its all, as he sent out his final Pokemon, his own Swellow, which excited Max at the prospect of a Swellow versus Swellow battle, but May and Brock weren't so sure about this choice, as they weren't so sure that Ash's Swellow could contend with Winona's shiny Swellow, especially because Winona had had her Swellow for longer, as opposed to Ash. Ash then revealed his reasoning for sending out Swellow, which was that he wanted to commemorate the last battle to the sky, just like Winona, hoping that he would get luck from the sky as well, wanting to win his next badge, and he declared to Winona that he was not going to lose, and he was going to win this goddamn badge, and prayed to the skies, hoping they would bless him with the badge. Winona respected Ash wanting to pray to the skies, and also respected the balls he had to send out a flying type of his own, when Winona was essentially a flying type master, so she asked Ash if he would like to take the match higher into the sky, since they were both using flying types. Ash agreed, so Winona had Zachary raise the platforms to the highest point possible to make it a true sky battle. As Ash's friends watched from the ground, seeing Ash and Winona in the sky with their Swallow, Brock suggested that Winona must have wanted to raise the platforms even higher, since she probably felt more comfortable battling higher up, since flying Pokemon could use the wind to their advantage. Max and May questioned what Brock meant by this, leading Brock to explain that with the increased altitude, a new challenge to the match would be unpredictable wind currents, although Winona probably could use this to her advantage since she was a flying type expert and she knew how the wind worked. Brock then discussed with May and Max the advantages and disadvantages of being up so high in the sky. The advantage was that trainers could see their Pokemon easier and from more far away, but the downside was, of course, the wind, which could affect both the Pokemon and the trainers, since the trainers may have to worry about getting blown off the platform if the wind got so bad. The battle then begins after Ash and Winona give each other the go-ahead, and with that, Ash starts things off by having his Swallow use Wing Attack, although Brock warned that Ash should have used a different attack. May and Max questioned why Ash using Wing Attack was so bad, leading Brock to explain that when Swallow was using Wing Attack, it didn't flap its wings, so if Winona ended up striking Swallow while it was using Wing Attack, then Swallow couldn't maintain balance when it was hit, since it couldn't flap its wings. And sure enough, Brock's warning was justified, as Winona's Swallow was faster than Ash's, so it was able to get off an attack first, flying straight into Ash's Swallow, causing Ash's Swallow to lose control since it was using Wing Attack, and it starts to fall to the ground, shocking Ash. To make things worse for Ash's Swallow, while it was still falling to the ground, Winona had her Swallow dive down and use Peck on it repeatedly, extremely worrying Ash's friends. At least one good thing happened for Ash, though, because as both Swallow approached the ground, Winona's Swallow flew back up because it obviously didn't want to come crashing down with Ash's, and because Ash's Swallow was no longer being pecked, it was able to focus on recovering from the fall, and it was able to save itself and fly back up before crashing to the ground. Ash breathed a sigh of relief because it was a really close call. Swallow was so close to the ground that when it suddenly flew up, it caused dust to fly up from the ground as well. Suddenly, Max warns Ash to look out, and warning him that Winona's Swallow was approaching behind Ash's. And immediately after this, Winona told her Swallow to use Hyper Beam, but thankfully, due to Max's warning, Ash was able to tell Swallow to dodge in time. Although Winona just launched another Hyper Beam, and this time, Swallow was not prepared to dodge, and a direct hit was landed. This huge attack causes Ash's Swallow to begin falling to the ground again, and it allows Winona's Swallow to launch another Hyper Beam, heading straight for Ash's Swallow, but Ash calls to his Pokemon to dodge once again, and thankfully, Swallow was able to recover from the Hyper Beam and fly back up to dodge the attack, and it flipped around, now facing Winona's Swallow as it went in for a quick attack, but Winona's Swallow was too fast, and it dodged this, and then countered with a powerful Aerial Ace, slamming into Ash's Swallow, severely damaging it. Leaving Ash's friends shocked at how Aerial Ace was both good defensively and offensively, because May remembered that Aerial Ace was an unmissable attack, according to Brock, and Max realized that Winona was using it for defense as well, to dodge. So yeah, it was basically just overpowered. It could deal severe damage and dodge, and Ash's friends got very worried because of the Aerial Ace, and began to wonder if Ash's Swallow even had any chance to win when Winona's Swallow had such great speed with the Aerial Ace. Due to being hit by the Aerial Ace, Ash's Swallow begins to fall to the ground again, and Winona's Swallow follows, therefore making the battle a chase, with Winona's Swallow trying to get up close to Ash's to finish it off. Ash, seeing that Winona's Swallow was coming in for another Aerial Ace, told his Swallow to dodge, and it began to do so by flying in a zigzag pattern to immensely fast to try and throw Winona's Swallow off. Although Max and Nate were still worried, and Brock was as well, knowing that Swallow couldn't keep shaking and zigzagging forever. Winona's Swallow would eventually find a way to hit it. Deep down, Ash knew that he wouldn't be able to evade Winona's Swallow for long either, since Winona's Swallow would eventually be able to hit with an Aerial Ace, and he knew that if he was going to win, he had to find a way to counter the Aerial Ace. And he eventually gets an idea when he notices the wind pick up again, causing sand to blow across the battlefield, and this makes him remember the time that Swallow recovered from the fall and blew sand up from the field, and then it went back up into the air. Basically, Ash remembered how his Swallow was able to fling dust up into the air when it got super close to the ground, and because of this, he had a plan. Replaying when Swallow blew dust up in the air over and over again in his head. Winona then interrupted his thoughts, congratulating Ash for how well he had done, despite not being a flying type master, but apologizes to Ash, stating that she was going to end the battle right now with a Hyper Beam attack, intending for it to be the final one. May and Max turn around in fear, and Pikachu shuts its eyes. They just couldn't bear the thought of what was about to happen. They assumed that Ash was about to lose, and Brock was about to turn around as well, but then Ash ordered his Swallow to use Quick Attack and dive straight for the ground. Swallow's sudden change in direction towards the ground extremely fast causes Winona's Swallow to miss its Hyper Beam, and it tries another one and misses that one as well, so it decides to speed up and give chase to Ash's Swallow as they both near the ground. Per Winona's orders. Although Winona didn't just order her Swallow to crash down into the ground, no. She ordered it to use Aerial Ace as well, and it went into a spin, so basically it was going to try and crash into Swallow and then knock it into the ground to finish it off before Swallow could actually land on the ground itself. Max, May, and Brock can barely look as Max covers his eyes in fear, fearing that Ash's Swallow was about to get knocked to the ground, but Ash then put his plan into action as he told Swallow to use Wing Attack once it got close enough to the ground, and it did so, and because of this, the Wing Attack sent dust flying everywhere. Alright, let me explain Ash's plan here, because it was actually kind of cool. Like, I genuinely mean this. This is actually a pretty good fucking strategy. So basically, you know how Aerials makes the Swallow disappear? Well, if dust was all around the area, right, it would basically make the entire stadium filled with dust, and all you could see is dust. So basically, that would make the Winona's Swallow way easier to see, even though it disappeared, because it just, like, obviously a Swallow looks way different than dust. So basically, because of the dust, Ash's Swallow was able to see where Winona's Swallow was, despite its immensely fast spinning, shocking Winona, as Ash told his Swallow to use Wing Attack. And Ash's Swallow obliges, suddenly flying up, catching Winona's Swallow off guard at the fact that Ash's Swallow could see it, and Ash's Swallow smashes the Wing Attack straight into Winona's Swallow's jaw. When the dust cleared, it was revealed that Winona's Swallow had fallen to the ground and had been defeated. So, with that, Zachary officially called the match and declared Ash and the Swallow the winner. Ash immediately jumped for joy and congratulated his Swallow as it flew back to him. May and Max jumped for joy as well, and Pikachu put its hands up in joy. Brock then explained to May and Max Ash's full strategy, saying that Ash had Swallow use Wing Attack against the ground to blow dust in the air and greatly decrease Winona's Swallow's speed of attack, while also blinding it from view for a few seconds. Basically, Brock was just realizing what I had already explained, and we see a flashback of it, as Brock stated how impressed he was that Ash was fully coming up with genuine strategies now during battle, and was particularly impressed with Ash being able to cancel out Winona's Swallow's aerial ace. Later, Ash goes out of the gym with Nimona, and they all go to the bottom of the stairs, and it's then, while Ash's Swallow was beside him and Pikachu was back on his shoulder, that Winona gave Ash his reward for beating the gym, his feather badge, his 6th home gym badge. Ash thanks her and happily inspects his badge, and then holds it up and cheers, doing his victory pose with Pikachu, as Swallow jumps up and winks as well, happy that it contributed to the win. Winona then congratulated Ash, admitting that the battle truly showcased the trust between him and his Pokemon, and also Winona said that she was really amazed with the strategy that Ash developed. Zachary then comes down and congratulates Ash, as well as Winona tells Ash to make sure he continues to train his Swallow to the best of its strongest form, even though Swallow was fully evolved. She just meant that, keep improving Swallow, and Ash promised that he would. Winona then asked Ash how it was to fly in the skies while battling, and Ash replied that it was awesome. So, Winona said that if Ash really enjoyed battling in the sky, and since he battled well in the sky, he should be sure to use the power of the sky in future battles, and always pray to the sky. Ash promised that he would pray to the sky whenever he found necessary, and with that, he said goodbye to Winona and Zachary, and him and the gang went off towards their next destination, wherever that may be, now that Ash finally had his 6th home gym badge, which he was ecstatic about.